But thank you for being here. People keep congratulating me as I come up, and I think the congratulation should be turned around. Congratulations to you, Charla. Uh, I'm here really to acknowledge the work that Charlotte has done and her being an inaugural Evans Family Curator for the Black Experience. I'd like to welcome and acknowledge her parents uh, who have joined us today. Mr. and Mrs. Wilson, your daughter's dedication and remarkable work will leave a profound and lasting impact on the Northwestern community for generations to come. Charlotte's work began with a dream to preserve and celebrate the stories, the lives, the contributions of staff and alumni of this university, of my university. That dream's a reality today. Consider just a few examples of what she's accomplished. She secured the collection of photographs from Ron Craig, which chronicle during my time here, chronicle an entire generation of Black student life at Northwestern. She's connected with Daphne Maxwell Reed, who was the first Black homecoming queen at this university, who personally entrusted Charla's with a collection from her career, including materials from her celebrated time on The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. And she has documented the pivotal 1968 Black student takeover at the bursar's office and also the history of the Northwestern Community Ensemble. These are only a few examples of why this position matters so deeply. And I could go on and talk about the oral history project she has done. If you ever have a chance, just go look at the amount of work that she's done in such a short amount of time. Many people have played a role in making Charla's position a reality, and I'm grateful to each and every one of them. I want to thank the past and current leadership of the Northwestern University Black Alumni Association, several of them who are here with us tonight, and especially the very first president of NUBA, Bob Moore. I want to especially recognize University Librarian Emerita, Sarah Pritchard, for her vision and leadership, and I'm delighted that she could be here with us today. More than 5 years ago, I think it was, Jennifer Malman arranged for me to meet Sarah. We went over to Taco Diablo to have lunch, and it was a turning point. I had talked to Jennifer in alumni relations about, I wanted to do something for my university. It has been a life-changing experience being here at Northwestern for this young man from the west side of Chicago who had never been up here north, but it changed my life coming to Northwestern. And there was something I wanted to do in the twilight of my career. I've done all the good work and all of those skills. And, next year it will be 50 years when I graduated from here. And it was something I wanted to leave to Northwestern. I often tell alumni relations that investment they made in me 50 years ago, they've got it all back again. But as I sat and talked to Sarah and Jennifer, it was, what can I do? And Charlotte's position originally was only going to be for 3 years. And I really want to, again, acknowledge Sarah because she made the decision that this position had to be permanent. It was more important just to be here to kickstart this project. That conversation laid the very groundwork, which brings us here today. I also want to thank Dean Shima Wang. I thought I missed Sarah, but Shimo has kind of picked up the pace. Because he's willing to join me for a round of golf at the crack of dawn. And also, there's several thanks as well to colleagues in alumni relations and development to bringing this work to the attention of our broader alumni community. I'm glad to have Lindsay Baldine, Jamie Mueller. Jamie's here somewhere. I know she has to leave and go to another event, but my good friend Jamie. Oh, there's Lindsay, and of course Jennifer Molman, because without Jennifer, we could not be here today. We would not be here. She's been dedicated. She keeps me on track. She didn't tell me I should have been here early. I got here at 4:30, and Claire was looking for me, like, where is he? And I follow instructions. And I didn't know this was going to be such a profound event today. I know I got notes. I put it in my calendar. When you're retired, anybody here retired? When you're retired, the stuff is on your calendar. I'm not planning to, do anything big or whatever. And but Jennifer keeps me on track. Like, you have to do this. You got to do this. And I showed up today. I showed up on time. But and finally, I want to thank Steve Schron. I don't think he's going to be here today, but he's chair of the Library Board of Governors, and also Sandy Riggs, also a member of the Board of Governors, for their generous financial support of Charla's work, and as well as the many people in this room has contributed gifts to advance her mission. Thank you all.
Hello, everyone. This is truly an honor. Thank you so much for being here. I do want to begin by expressing my gratitude to everyone who made today possible. Thank you, Claire, Liz, Jen, and our friends from ARD for organizing this event. And thank you, Duong, for your support. And I also want to thank Clara and Will for your kind remarks. Thank you so much. I'd like to thank my family and friends for being here, and especially to my parents, who have always been my biggest supporters. I do have to pick on them for just a moment. They are here despite the fact that they hate to fly. So, in fact, they hate to fly so much that they have not come to visit me in the 9 years that I have been at Northwestern. So when I say that it's a big deal that they are here, it is a big deal. But I'm so happy that they're here, and this means so much to have you here in person, probably more than you realize. And with any accomplishment, I too share this with you. What makes this ceremony especially meaningful is that it not only recognizes an endowed position, but also the importance of archives. And with that, I want to thank Will Evans. I still remember receiving a phone call from Will a few years ago after I worked with alums of the Northwestern Community Ensemble and the choir to organize their 50th anniversary. And he shared how moved he was by a documentary I created with my friend and former colleague, Jessica Scott. And he asked how he could support my work. And I suggested something modest, something along the lines of supporting the cost of recording an oral history interview, perhaps. And he responded, "Oh, you need that fund to support that work." But that's not what I had in mind. Your position needs long-term support. And what followed was something much bigger than I could have ever expected for or imagined for an archivist position. Will would establish that fund, but he would ultimately take the extraordinary steps towards endowing this position in collaboration with our wonderful Director of Development, Jen Molman, who shepherded this through and continued to raise funds towards that goal. Will's vision and generosity have made this endowed curator position possible, and I am excited to publicly and officially use this title, the Evans Family Curator for the Black Experience. I will use it proudly, Will. My archivist friends and colleagues who are here can attest that we spend much of our times working behind the scenes, processing collections, working with donors, and helping others discover and access archival materials. Our work often happens quietly and out of the limelight, so moments like this feel very special. as it calls attention to the importance of archives and the work that we do as archivists to partner with our community to preserve history and memory. This role did not begin today, as Will was saying. It began several years ago when Black alums at Northwestern advocated for preserving and documenting their experiences at the university. Their leadership brought attention to an important truth, that the history of Northwestern cannot be fully understood without amplifying the voices and experiences of its Black faculty, students, staff, alumni who helped to shape this institution. And I am deeply grateful to those alums and to the university leadership, including former Dean of the Library, Sarah Pritchard, who helped bring this role into existence. When I started this position in 2017, it was a 3-year term position, which was fine with me. Coming from San Diego, by chilly December, I was ready to go back. However, as I began working in the archives and more importantly, getting to know the Black community here, it became apparent that 3 years would not even begin to scratch the surface of the work that could be possible here. So I'm especially grateful to Sarah for recognizing that and advocating to make this position permanent after my first year at Northwestern. Even today, roles like this remain relatively rare in academic libraries. So Will's generosity and Northwestern's willingness to support this work reflect a meaningful commitment to building a more complete and inclusive historical record. When I think about the evolution of this position, I'm reminded that this work has always been grounded in community and collaboration. And one of my favorite parts of this work is getting to know the alums and learning about their experiences at Northwestern and the lives they've led beyond it. They may not know archival terminology or our processes, but they understand the importance of stories. They understand what it means to preserve them, and they understand the consequences of not documenting them. I think of Eleanor Steele Stewart, who attended Northwestern in the mid-1960s at a time when there were fewer than 20 Black students enrolled on campus, and only a handful of Black women, 3 to be exact. She reached out to me to share her experiences, including her participation in the bursar's office takeover. And over time, those conversations grew, and eventually it led to an oral history interview between her and the 2 other Black women undergraduates who ultimately became her lifelong friends. Eventually, we partnered together on the Black Experience Oral History Project, where she now interviews many of her former classmates, especially from the B100. Those peer-to-peer interviews are incredibly rich, and I'm grateful for her partnership on that. I also think of Clovis Sims, who I met early in my time here while researching the history of the takeover for an exhibit I was curating in the library during my first year at Northwestern. At the end of one of our first conversations, he told me kindly but clearly that if I did not get the story of the takeover right, he would tell it himself. And you know what? I appreciated that because it reinforced something essential, that this history is important to this community, and that I have a responsibility to carry in preserving and sharing it accurately. And Clovis has been a wonderful collaborator ever since. Moments like these remind me that this work is not done solo, and really it cannot be. It is communal work. It is built through relationships with alums, their families, with students, and with community members who trust us with their histories and collections. We are living in a moment when the interpretation of history is being called into question, especially Black history. And in moments like these, archives can play a vital role and in terms of preserving the evidence of lived experience. They ensure that the stories of communities are not lost, altered, forgotten, or erased. Archives are about stewarding documents today that become the sources that future students, scholars, community members will rely on to understand the past. And this is what makes Will's vision and gift so extraordinary. The idea that this position will be permanent, will permanently exist, changes everything. There is protection and a safeguard around this specific initiative at Northwestern. And this work will now continue, not just during my tenure, but for so many years to come. That is an extraordinary legacy and a tremendous gift to our institution. Before I close, I do want to acknowledge my colleagues from across the library who have supported this work in countless ways over the years and will continue to do so. Thank you all. I'm deeply grateful to my mentors who are here and outside of Northwestern, and I specifically want to acknowledge Kevin Leonard and John Doerr for their guidance and support throughout this journey. And to collaborators beyond the library and beyond Northwestern, I see many of you here today. Thank you so much for your support and partnership as well. And Jen, thank you again for championing this effort from the very beginning. And again, I want to thank my family and friends for their love and support as well. This has always been collective work, and today's recognition belongs to the community of Black alums as well. This moment reflects institutional commitment. It reflects the vision and generosity of Will Evans and the shared belief that these stories matter, that they deserve preservation, and that they will continue to be safeguarded for generations to come. It is my honor to steward this work, and I look forward to continuing. Thank you so much.